environmental justice would be, you know, honesty, the recognition that anything that fails to serve its intended purpose is corrupt. So, you know, if to give an example, if you have packaging that no longer serves its purpose, it's corrupt and it's put on either the trash. Well, the environment here in Graham, okay, is one of rural habitation. But there's trash along the road.
Mm-hmm.
There's domestic violence in the households. Children often aren't given stimulating environments. You know, parents try and provide safe, but they lack the community centers and the ability to provide the more stimulating that's going to actually develop their whole being rather than just allow them to safely exist. How it doesn't work is this. Some higher authority has mandated that a code of behavior, business code, personal code, be put into place. But my experience has been that there's been no enforcement mechanism. How so environmental justice is going to have to work is participation. People need to recognize that they get the politicians they voted for. They get the community leaders that they hold up for special recognition. I formed a group that I'm calling the Solid Waste Special Interest Group because in this county, the political system is been corrupted by what I can only call the waste mafia. You know, the local land waste company was formed by a guy who in his youth ran bootleg liquor for the Italians in downtown Tacoma. And his front, his plausible deniability was that he was a junk hauler. And so he turned around and bought it and offered his services to the politicians who were in the 1970s suffering through stagnation. I mean, there were signs on the freeway saying the last person out of Seattle, turn off the lights. So, you know, he came in as a savior economically. Bought the landfill, committed himself to do what the feds or supervise the federal money, which is what he was really after. And the political forces in place decided, hey, this is a good deal. We can look like we're doing something without telling everybody we're just stealing federal dollars. So he continued to have the contract, and Pierce County is now paying twice the rate that everybody else in the Puget Sound is paying for trash collection typically. And he got away with it by claiming that to the political establishment that he didn't have the cash, but he needed to get a bond. The only way you can get a bond is by securing it with the public resource, the trash hauling in the future. So he said the reason for his exorbitant rates were this bond that he had to secure and pay back to get the wherewithal, the resources to perform this act for the county. Well, that was 40 years ago. The rates have never gone down. They've only gone up. It's bring to people's attention that the Washington State Growth Management Act requires every 5 years that you update your plans. In this case, solid waste management plan. Solid waste management plan was implemented in 2008, and there's been no public meeting on the subject at all, despite the fact that the county charter says that there's going to be a solid waste public advisory commission, which is the only legally authorized manner in which to hold community meetings. I personally subscribe to the philosophy that we should have public hearings, the public should be commented, and the issue of diversion of organics should be addressed as it's required to be in the current waste management plan, and it's never been addressed. So, you know, I'd like to change that. Well, specifically, there's 60,000 gallons of leachate produced every year, but the landfill operator only has a permit to dump 32 in the sewer system. So people, public, spent $384 million to upgrade Chambers Creek processing. And as soon as that was done, they immediately asked for a permit to put an additional 300 pounds of chemicals into the waste system to be dumped in Puget Sound. And, you know, their rationale was that King County dumps even more toxic chemicals in the Puget Sound than does Pierce County. The problem is that Pierce County dumps it into the south end of the Sound, which is restricted by the Narrows and doesn't have the cleansing action that tidal movement does in King County's area of the Sound. Pierce County has a really long and storied history of claiming to protect underserved and disadvantaged citizens. But in fact, when you look at what they spend money on, they spend money on museums that benefit contractors. They claim they have no money to fix streets, but they repave and widen entire stretches of roadway that benefit the business community. While, you know, neglecting sidewalks, lights to allow children to cross streets in front of schools. You know, a disabled person, well, if you've driven the roads, Grant, you know where all the crosses are, where people have been killed because they made the mistake of walking on the side of the road, because there is no sidewalks and there is never enough shoulder to physically operate a non-motorized transportation. You know, if you're on a bike, if you're on a skateboard, if you're walking, if you're in a wheelchair, you are simply a target. You know, and of course the issue has become quite often is how many kids have to die before they put a crosswalk in. I don't believe that you can separate the personal from the social from the communal. I mean, they are related whether you like it. If you don't have a physical environment that is stimulating and helpful, you're not going to be stimulated and you're not going to be healthy. And you're going to suffer the consequences. You know, you cannot, as a natural being, ignore the fact that you're part of nature. There's a former senator, state senator, Beth. She was telling me that she has a artesian spring on her property that's flowing. And she offered to sell her water rights to the local water company. And they refused it because she lives too close to the dam. Well, I apologize, the landfill. Local farmers would love to sell to the local population because they're able to produce. The problem is that stores won't buy from local producers. They want a large, steady stream of uniform quality that they can offer, 24, 36 months in advance. Society has a need. The greater good is going to overcome any rationalization for preservation. The aim of most environmental management systems is to balance, right? The environmental protection and maintenance of the ecosystem with the socio-economic needs. There has to be a balance.
And that's the greater good, is that balance?
I think so. Part of the international standards for environmental systems says that you're supposed to identify the laws and regulations that constrain your actions in the environment. And the problem that arises is that balance is often not maintained. There isn't an independent auditor, typically. The public should be able to act and have their say as to whether that balance has been struck or not. I think the best thing that can be done is to engage and encourage public discourse. Without all of the parts of society contributing, we're depriving each other of the experience. Other people with different points of view, different perspectives, different knowledge base, different set of emotional facts that need to be taken into consideration when you're resolving conflicts. And the only way I know to do it is to accept the fact that your personal agenda is going to conflict with your social needs. One of the things that we didn't talk about, and I'm not sure how you would even talk about it, is the fact that within each and every one of us, we have internal conflicts. On the one hand, I don't want to be tread upon. On the other hand, I want to have the ability to tread on anybody I want to. I think it's important to understand that you're the product of a lot of conflicts. Man, when I was doing software engineering, we would always test things, and we could only say that we were 95% positive that something was going to work the way we intended it to. And often, it wasn't over 70%.